Watch Shannon.
Now we have to be quiet.
You're lying.
According to the American Academy of Breastfeeding, there's 4,000 different species of mammals, and out of those 4,000, 350 of them, their milk has been collected and studied. And according to the studies, their milk, everybody's milk is made specifically for their offspring and not for anything else. So, with saying that, do you guys know the benefits of breastfeeding? Many of us have either had to make the decision or will make the decision to either breastfeed or formula feed our infants. I myself had to make this decision for my son, and if I would have had the information I have now, I would have maybe made a different decision. The breastfeeding your child does not only give your infant numerous nutrients, which is not in formula, and it also gives a great time for mom and baby to bond. Now I'd like to explain the benefits of breastfeeding over formula feeding. Here are some facts about breast milk. Human milk makes us show why we follow animals and not nesters. The water content in breast milk is 87% water, and that's both in colostrum, which is the first milk that comes in for the first 2 or 3 days, and it's also 87% water in mature milk. There's a lower fat and protein in breast milk than any other mammal. For instance, sea lions, they have 38% fat content in their milk, and humans have 4%. That's why sea lions can go out to sea and not have to feed their offspring for days, and that's why we have to feed our infants frequently. Studies have shown that there are fewer deaths among breastfed infants versus formula infants. Babies who are breastfed within the first year have a 21% less risk to die than infants that are formula fed. And this reduction reduces to 38% if your infant is breastfed for at least 3 months. And this is translated in the US to 720 deaths a year that can be prevented. And in 2010, studies in pediatrics, 911 deaths could have been prevented if 90% of babies were breastfed. It's amazing considering all the things that are in human milk that are good for your baby. It supplies your baby nutrition too. That's a quote from Thomas Cleary, who's a physician in Plymouth, Massachusetts. I'm just going to show you a poster quick of some different ways you can breastfeed your child. There's a cross cradle hold. There's a cradle hold. This is the most popular among breastfed moms. It's one of the easiest ones to do. The football hold is a good one to use too. That's mainly used in women who just had a C-section or that have to feed more than one infant. So if you have twins, you could have both arms, which is a good hold to do. Sideline hold also is a good hold, just kind of laying down if you're tired. Also women that have just had a C-section, and also in the first few days of just learning how to breastfeed, you're very tired, and baby's tired too, so this is a good one too to learn. And it's always good not to have your baby come to your breast, but rather you push them towards it, otherwise they're not going to do it, they won't do it. And now we're going to talk about the effects of formula feeding on your baby. The risk of formula feeding, there's a 10-fold risk of hospitalization of all bacterial infections just because there's a lack of immunity from your breast milk that's transferred. So if you formula feed, they're not getting that immunity from you. Even though there is still immunity from in the womb, it's not as good as if you were to breastfeed your baby. According to the Mayo Clinic website, there's a higher risk of respiratory and middle ear infections, and that's one of the reasons why, because they're not getting the immunity. And soy formula is associated with an increase in an autoimmune thyroid disorder. Formula feeding also there's incidences of diseases that can not just be in infancy, but throughout your entire lifetime, such as type 1 diabetes, obesity, lymphoma of all kinds of cancers, and cardiovascular disease. And some of the ways that formula inventories and stores and stuff like that try to promote you to get their formula is they'll send these kind of things to you in the mail. Even if you're a breastfeeding mom, they'll send them anyways, just to persuade you to buy their formula because that's how they're making money. And also, Infamils came out with toddler formula, which is almost the exact same thing that's in whole milk, and this is a lot more expensive. So this is just another way they're trying to target their consumers to buy their products. The CDC has made breastfeeding one of their top priorities to fight against obesity and inactivity, which is huge right now. So they're trying to get moms to breastfeed. Now we'll talk about the risks regarding the mom who does not decide to breastfeed. Some of the risks that go along with not deciding to breastfeed is mom can have a risk of getting Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, breast and ovarian cancer, osteoporosis, a short pregnancy interval, even though breastfeeding is not considered birth control, but there can be a shorter interval if you decide formula feed. Obesity and high blood pressure, which is also another name for hypertension. And some of the major goals of the formula companies is to market the product to the recipient who has no control over whether they can do it or not, which is the baby. They have no control over. It's just the marketing that is one of the major things that moms decide to formula feed instead. And there's intensive and deliberate marketing to individuals who have made the opposing choice, such as moms who decided to breastfeed. They may get formula sent in the mail at growth spurts, or they may get coupons at the store for money off formula even though they breastfeed, but they may buy diapers there, or they know you have an infant somehow. And can you remember the question I had asked you at the beginning of the speech? And the question was, do you know why breastfeeding is more beneficial than opposed to formula feeding? The benefits of formula feeding or breastfeeding affect your baby for a lifetime. Breastfeeding does not only allow your infant lifelong benefits, but it also gives that mom lifelong benefits. Just remember, when you make the decision to either breastfeed or formula feed, think about the recipient, the baby.
Did you want